What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel, Richard on Data. This is my data science statistics tutorial series where I give you all the applied statistics knowledge that you need to conquer the data science world. So in my last video I talked about measures of center, the mean, the median, and the mode. These are all ways we can describe the central tendency of a variable. However, in real life, it's often not enough to do that. You need to describe the spread of a variable, maybe the uncertainty of some kind of estimate, and generally just describing and reducing uncertainty and spread. That is the foundation for an awful lot of applied statistics. Make sure you watch this video to the end because I'm going to go over 5 different metrics. That's range, interquartile range, mean absolute deviation, standard deviation, and variance. I'm going to talk about how you calculate these things, how they generally manifest and show up in practice, and then some of the awesome intuition and properties behind standard deviation and variance. Before I do that though, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then hit the notification bell so YouTube notifies you whenever I upload a new video. Alright, so let's start with a small amount of data. Now, let's just pretend these are temperatures in the month of March in Detroit. We're going to do that because I like weather, and because the weather here gets really weird sometimes. You're going to see the data down below on the screen, and yes, I exaggerated these a little bit, but only barely. Let's start with a few summary metrics here. So the mean is 43.8. Going down the list a little bit, you've got a minimum of 15. You've got a 25th percentile or 25th quantile, also known as the first quartile. That's 32.25. The median is 43. The 75th percentile is 55.25. And the max is 71. Right away, all those numbers, except for the mean, that's just always a nice to have summary metric. Those other numbers together comprise your 5-number summary. And you can tell from looking at these right away, you already have a pretty reasonable feel for the distribution of this data and the general spread and shape of it. But then if you take your minimum, that's 15, and your maximum, 71, then you take the difference between them, you get 56, and that's your range. Now, this number is not incredibly useful in practice because if you think about a real-world variable in a real-world data set, you're going to have a lot of outliers on both ends. So practically, if you're just taking the difference between the maximum and the minimum, you're just taking the difference between whatever the most extreme outliers you have on either side are. So it's a nice-to-know thing. It's probably not something you're going to end up using in practice a whole lot, though. But let's go back to the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile, though. So remember, those are 32.25 and 55.25, and the difference between them is 23. Now, that difference between Q1 and Q3, that is the interquartile range. Now, this is a bit better of a descriptor of the variability of your data than the range is, because already you have some kind of intuition and feeling for what the middle 50% of your data behave like. It also has a nice practical property, because if you take the formula 25th percentile minus 1.5 times IQR, that gives you the lower end cutoff for outliers in the data set, or at least it's one way that outliers can be defined. Similarly, if you take the 75th percentile, or Q3, plus 1.5 times interquartile range, that gives you the threshold for outliers on the high side. So just another nice property, and it's a nice way in which interquartile range can actually get used in practice and be meaningful. Next, I'm going to tell you about a metric you've probably never even heard of before, and that's called the mean absolute deviation. And it is calculated pretty much exactly like how it sounds. So you're going to take the deviation, or the difference, between every single data point and the mean. So if you take the low end point here, 15, the mean was 43.8. The deviation, or difference between those two, it's just 28.8. The direction doesn't matter because we're just taking the absolute value here. You're going to take every single one of those deviations or differences and take the average of all those. That is called the mean absolute deviation, and it's 14.1 in this particular set of data. More on this in a little bit. Next one is the one everybody's heard of before at least, and that's the standard deviation. Now, this one is actually very similar to the mean absolute deviation, but it's the one everybody uses in practice. And this one is interpreted basically as approximately the average distance that an observation is from the mean. And the way this is calculated is somewhat similar but different. How it's actually calculated is you take every distance an observation is from the mean, you square it, then you add all of those squared deviations up. You have a sum of squares. You take the square root of that and then divide by n minus 1. Now, on a technical note, there's actually a difference between what's called the population standard deviation and the sample standard deviation. In the population version, we divide by n in the denominator. In the sample version, we divide by n minus 1 in the denominator. There's not really a practical difference between these two very often. The difference is for mathematical reasons, but usually we'll use the n minus 1 or the sample version because we don't have a full population's worth of data. We have just a sample's worth of data. Now, there's actually a real practical benefit to us using the standard deviation instead of the mean absolute deviation, which we almost always do in practice. And that's because with the standard deviation, we're squaring a whole bunch of things and we add them up, we create a sum of squares. Eventually, we take a square root. But that process of squaring things, by definition, when you square things, you are making things bigger, you're creating more deviation, you're creating more distance. The process of doing that actually penalizes outliers more, and if you have a lot of outliers, you end up seeing a much bigger gap between the standard deviation and what the mean absolute deviation would be. So if you take our example from before, the mean absolute deviation was 14.1, but the standard deviation is 17.3. So just keep this in mind. The mean absolute deviation is a little bit sensitive to outliers. The standard deviation, significantly more so. And a lot of practical applied statistics and data science work, it can really center on reducing variability, reducing variance, reducing the standard deviation, what have you. So I hope this really goes to illustrate the impact that outliers can have, and sometimes when that's your goal of reducing uncertainty or reducing variation, outliers are the very first thing that you want to think about. Last but not least, we have variance. So this actually gets misused in people's language a lot. Variance is actually a very specific statistical term. Sometimes it can be used interchangeably by people with variation or variability, which are more of these general terms which describe the spread or uncertainty about your data. No, don't use those interchangeably with variance because variance is a very specific term. Variance does not have a super intuitive definition. It's approximately the average squared distance that an observation is away from the mean. It's calculated by, very similarly to what we did with the standard deviation, we take every observation, subtract it from the mean, square that, and add all those square differences up, then divide by n minus 1. The only difference is in the numerator, we're not taking a square root anymore. You're often going to see this instead of the standard deviation used alongside the mean to describe a statistical distribution. Now this is just because it has really awesome mathematical properties. It's also known as the second moment of a distribution, and the same property as before with the standard deviation applies with the sample variance versus the population variance. So in practice, of all the metrics I just described, you're going to see the standard deviation manifest a lot more than any of the others most of the time. And just really notice from that one number, the standard deviation, look how much more information than just the mean alone you have about that one variable. Again, you're getting all this more information about what the data look like from only one number. Standard deviation and variance form the mathematical backbone of statistics because almost all of statistics really does come down to quantifying how uncertain or how unlikely some particular event is. Statistics is the science for that, and these are really just the building blocks for that science. I really can't stress enough, so much of practical applied data science comes down to reducing or eliminating uncertainty. So I really hope this provided some intuition behind that and just helped to provide some helpful food for thought. So thanks for watching this video. Until next time, Richard on Data.